Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. Thank you very much. This was very very squeaky chairs. I was very off-put. It was very off-putting. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I believe the appropriate response to that is roll tide. This was very nearly one of the most expensive stops on my Dangerous Faggot tour. It was nearly cost me 2.5 Louis Vuitton handbags to speak to you this evening. After your university tried to charge the college Republicans $8,000 for security costs. Well, the only person at risk here is me. And I bring Navy SEALs, so I'm fine. No, this is a new kind of censorship that colleges is a new innovation. You know, colleges are always innovating. One of the ways they're innovating is in how to stop conservative speakers coming to campus, and they're very good at that. So this new security fee censorship, they call it fee speech, is a new way. Is a new way that you can stop speakers you don't like from appearing on campus by pretending that their presence will cause such a ruckus that you are required to employ hundreds of thousands of police officers. As happened at UC Irvine, I think they had 5 different police forces, not to protect me or you, of course, but just to keep at bay the hordes of crazy liberal loons outside. It is, you know, the thing that these universities don't tell you is what they're worried about isn't us. What they're worried about is their own students going mental because they can't cope with new ideas. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about censorship. I was going to talk to you about the debate, but I think we all know what happened at the debate. Now, Donald Trump is a changed man since he made those comments 11 years ago. He's grown up, he's reformed, but if this were 11 years ago, he might have referred to last night as a brutal schlonging, because that's certainly what it was. Hillary Clinton hasn't been this upset since the last round of White House intern auditions. Did you see his face last night? You know, they cut to him and he's like, poor Chelsea, sitting next to her stepdad. As you know, you know when liberals have lost the argument, you know when they know that they've got nothing, is when they start complaining about the tone. The tone. Milo Yiannopoulos shouldn't come to college, just lowers the tone. People at Stanford at the moment working out whether they're going to allow me in. I'm just not sure he's, you know, our sort of person. And of course, last night, you know, Trump won so convincingly that this morning the media is talking about his tone. He lowered the tone. We've had some, you know, highfalutin register. We've had some elevated elitist language in the media and politics for quite some time, and it hasn't really served anyone very well. So I, for one, am quite happy with this new populist spirit in America. I think it's wonderful. Now, Trump, of course, is a changed reform man, as I said. You know, he did commit a terrible sin. He expressed sexual interest in a woman. These days, enough to get you expelled. I mean, you know, you guys have to be very careful doing stuff like that. You can fall afoul of these kangaroo courts. You know, you sort of touch a woman on the arm and find yourself led off in chains, you know. Good heavens, it's ridiculous. Anyway, last night, the debate had everything. He said Hillary should be in jail. You know, you can sort of tell, the reason I love him so much, he's such a shitlord. He's got this mischievous little like moment on his face, and she's like, you know, she's sort of squawking, you know, very happy that nobody with the disposition of Donald Trump is, you know, running the law in America. And he's like, 'cause you'd be in jail. You know, it's like, wonderful. I love him. He's absolutely wonderful. Roll, daddy, roll. Now, as some of you may be aware, I was in New York yesterday and Saturday night participating in an art show, further evidence of the intolerance of the left. They cannot cope with the tables being turned on them. Art has for decades been the province of the left. They have liked to skewer Christians, skewer conservatives, make fun of anybody with remotely conservative and now even libertarian beliefs. But they don't like it Upham. And so when we flipped the script on Saturday night and invited Trump-friendly artists to exhibit works in a gallery, well, first of all, they had the gallery call it off, so we had to move. Second of all, they orchestrated a sort of media blackout. They were all the 300 journalists on a list together, all saying, should we cover it? No, 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 let's just pretend it didn't happen. Let's pretend it happened. Well, Milo Yiannopoulos bathing in pig's blood to represent the blood of innocents slaughtered by illegal aliens and Islamic terrorists in the center of New York is not so difficult to, is not so easy to ignore, really. And indeed nobody did. The Gothamist today came out and Gothamist came, don't I look lovely? I even look hot, drenched in blood. No, Gothamist came out today with a post, and the whole thing is just her complaining that I got blood on her. And she was just sort of standing there, and I just thought I'd, you know, ruin the dress. I was very happy about that. It'd be easy to dismiss my performance as attention-seeking, as absurd as it may sound to me for anyone to accuse me of attention-seeking. Stop it. It would be easy to dismiss it, but illegal immigration is not a subject to be lightly dismissed, and nor is Islamic terror, and nor are the people who enable it, who mollycoddle it, who pander to the worst elements entering the United States. And I often like to say that I'm here as a sort of warning from Europe. They don't want you to go the way that we have gone. Well, it isn't just a problem for people who live in cities like New York, when 9/11 happens and things like that. It's also a problem here. I wonder how many of you know about Tad Mattel and Lee Anna Jimison. Do you know these names? Well, one of the reasons you don't know them is that they were killed in 2009 in Alabama in a drunk driving accident by an illegal alien who had already been arrested once and was allowed to remain in this country. So why don't we take a moment to remember them, these people who never had an opportunity to attend this or any other college, thanks to somebody who should never have been in this country. Thank you. That's not the only moment of solemnity today. It is, of course, Columbus Day. Which is it's okay, you're allowed to laugh now, it's all right. So, it is Columbus Day. It's a great national tragedy. 524 years ago, Christopher Columbus came to America, and what a disaster that was. One of those awful moments in history where the civilization takes a turn for the worse. The Third World War, the Dark Ages, and Columbus Day. I mean, come on, they didn't even invent the wheel. What? It's true. I'm not even remotely the most deplorable person on this subject. There'll be people on the internet far worse than me, saying far worse things than me. Now, liberal. He's here actually. So if you, I mean, maybe Hillary's right. Yeah, this is pretty deplorable. Where is he? Where are you? Now, don't act shocked. I know you think that you're not supposed to laugh at stuff like this, but what we're basically talking about is shifting civilizations, shifting cultures, shifting societies. The left hates success. It hates aspiration. It hates glamour. It hates anything that wins. Well, Europeans won. We won a lot of stuff. You're all wearing our suits and speaking our language. We basically invented you. And I like to think we did a pretty fucking great job. This country's wonderful. It's a wonderful country. I'm very pleased to be back in the South, by the way. It is not just the charming, you know, something that always strikes me And I kind of knew this was going to be the case, but I'm very happy to have been proven right about this. You know, you come down to the South in America, and you sort of, you know, everybody assumes that you're either on your way to buying a cross to burn, or you're burning one at any one time. Well, that's what you would believe if you listen to people who live in New York and Los Angeles. My experience of the South has been a little different. My experience of the South has been characterized by compassion and warmth and kindness. People who walk up to me and say, yeah, I love you, man. Yeah, listen, if you're ever in the area, come around my house for tea, you know. I don't say it like that, because that would be the British way of saying it, but that does happen. And it's very moving to me. The sort of, the sincerity and compassion down here makes a mockery of the ugly, sociopathic nastiness of the coastal elites, of the kind of people who worked for Gorka, and who now work for, sad, isn't it? Once again, natural selection in operation. The South is a wonderful place. Not least, nobody told me all the hot black guys were down here. If I'd known, I wouldn't have bothered with Los Angeles. We're going to talk about another black guy, one I don't like so much. We're not talking about Hillary today. We're going to. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about a black man I don't find particularly attractive. He just looks so gay. We're going to talk. President of the United States. They got the gall to call Trump unpresidential. What I'm going to talk to you about today is actually a very serious subject, and something of a technical subject, but it really matters to you. Who here uses the internet? Presumably all of you. Anybody here use 4chan? Oh, you do? Lots of you, lots of you. Would you be okay with me buying it? Should I buy it? All right. Oh. We'll see. But I want to talk to you about a serious and technical subject. You're going to learn something this evening. I've entertained you for a little bit. Now you're going to learn something. I want to talk to you about a little bit, and you're going to groan, but I want you to pay attention. It is about the way that the internet is put together and what this man just did. Transferred from US control, thanks to Obama, was ICANN recently. ICANN is, you know when you turn a book around and there's the barcode on the back. It's called an ISBN. And that every book is a unique ISBN. Only that book can have that ISBN. So wherever you are in the world, whether you're in Amazon or Barnes & Noble, you give them that ISBN and they'll find you the right book. Well, the internet has a system like that too, and it's called DNS. And the DNS system is run by these guys. Now, these guys have done a really good job up until now. Do you know why? Because America has run it. They've done a really, really good job of not only keeping the system working properly, but also enforcing ideals of freedom and free speech on the internet. Now, the ISBN on the back of your book just points salespeople to the right book. These guys have a bit more power when it comes to the internet. When you type in twitter.com, maybe a bad example, but when you type in, well, because it won't be there for much longer. But when you type in twitter.com, what these guys do is, you know, they work out the system that helps point your computer to the right place. But they also can set rules about what you can name things. So that not only can they turn you on and off, stop people being able to find you, but they can also lay down rules about what you're allowed to call yourself. It'd be a bit like whoever does the ISBNs for the books was allowed to tell you that you can't call your book certain things. So they could change your title. Now, this is a very technical subject, but it's very important because when an author or publisher writes a book, they have pretty much freedom to do whatever they want. Now, if I wanted to call my first book, which by the way is going to be amazing, and it's almost finished, I want to call my first book The Dangerous Faggot Manifesto, for instance. Now, I could do that. Maybe my publisher would be fine with that. And there might be bookstores who weren't happy to hold that book. There might be bookstores who are like, you know, I don't really want that on the shelves, you know, because ugh. I'm going to put a picture of myself on to sort of to soften the blow a little bit. But nobody anywhere in that transaction could say you can't call your book that, because this is America. You can do what you like. This is a little different. Now, the reason this matters, and by the way, the system, as I said, the system has worked brilliantly because it's been run by America so far. Technically, it's a sort of Canadian non-profit, but don't hold that against them. This is run under American government contract. And as a result, because it's run under contract to the US government, it is subject to the First Amendment. So they're not allowed to tell you what you can call things. They're not allowed to stop you visiting certain websites. Not allowed to do any of those things. They act as a monopoly, but they have an system works well. Now I know you're all this, but rest assured, this is one instance in which the government actually does a really good job. They do a really, really good job of running this particular bit of the internet, or at least they used to, because Obama is planning to hand this off to unaccountable, unelected, remote global elites, with one particular candidate rising head and shoulders up. They're very creaky. Very creaky. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to wait until you're finished. No, we're good. I've got a bus outside. I'll leave whenever I want. Obama is the kind of American who believes that America is bad, believes that there are things really wrong with this country. And as a European, I come over here and I look out at the political landscape. It's very clear to me, whatever his other failings might be, that Donald Trump loves America. And he loves all the good things about America. He loves freedom, free speech, capitalism, property rights. In fact, he may be, the model American in some ways. It's very obvious to me that some of your Democrats don't like this country very much. And they don't like its institutions. They don't like the First Amendment. They don't like the Second Amendment. They don't like the police very much. They don't like all sorts of things that keep this country the best country and keep this country ticking over. I swear to God. Now, Obama's a sort of American that just doesn't really like this country very much, as far as I can tell. His giveaway of ICANN might not even be constitutional, but that's never stopped him before, has it? Now, the short... Something he's not really allowed to do, he just does that. Now, the short answer on who's taking over this bit of the internet is that it's not clear. Now, there's vague reports that an unelected, unaccountable sort of global bureaucracy could be doing it. And this is globalism in action. This is globalism in action. This is the... This is the UN. As you can see from my slides, the UN are fags. I don't mean in the sense of dick sucking, although they probably do that too. I mean fag in its real sense of, crap, lame, rubbish, Hillary supporting, immigrant loving. That kind of fag. The UN are fags. And power handed over to organizations like this is exactly what Democrats do. Because they don't like their own countries very much. Now, tellingly, Google and Silicon Valley and all of the tech bigwigs all love this idea. These are the people who are palling around with George Soros, all those kinds of guys, these unaccountable globalist elites. Now, as I say, the main candidate for the new ownership of ICANN is the UN. And former ambassador to the UN, a US ambassador to the UN, one of your own people who went to the UN, recently said in an interview that within 10 years, the internet will be under UN control, and that the internet as we know it will end. Consider, if you think that's a little bit over the top, what other regimes do. And we'll come to some of them particularly and specifically. What China does to the internet. What Russia does to the internet. And then consider that Hillary Clinton's campaign recently said that Breitbart should not exist. That arguably the most influential news service in this country, without which Donald Trump could not have done what he has done, which I'm very happy to work for, should not exist. And then ask yourself this, what other things might the Democrats not like, that I like, that if they got into power and this happened, they might just switch off? This is, as you can probably tell, a bit of a dry technical subject, but it is one of the most important scandals and one of the most underreported on issues in Obama's entire presidency. And it is being snuck out, just like 12.5 Syrian immigrants are being snuck in, which is not funny. Sorry, you can laugh, it's okay, it's all right. Sorry, scolding you for laughing at my own talk. What am I doing? Just like 12.5 Syrian immigrants, which, by the way, has almost no Christians in. If you consider, that Christians in Syria are 3 to 5%, you would imagine some sort of proportional help given to our fellow Christians in Syria. But so far it looks like the number of Syrian Christians coming in is 0. And indeed the UN has said they won't be focusing on Christians. Just like Obama is trying to slide in the dying days of his presidency, 12,500 immigrants that nobody in this country wants. I should say migrants. So too is he giving away an essential part of what America has built, an essential part of how America functions now. It is a utility, it is an asset just as important as water and energy, or at least it's a close third. And this is what Obama is handing away to other people, while everyone else is focused on Hillary and Trump. Some truth to the argument that information just wants to be free, and that maybe the UN should have it instead of the US. But the problem is who the UN likes and who it doesn't. The UN just put in charge, relatively recently, the country in charge chairing its Human Rights Commission. Does anyone know which country was put in charge of chairing the UN's Human Rights Commission? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Facts. Thanks to Obama, soon, heaven help you. Heaven help you if you are someone that the prevailing administration doesn't like. And if it were Republicans, I would be saying the same thing, because they should not be given untrammeled access to that sort of that power, the power of censorship. Nor should they be making moves like this, because we're best when we have a strong opposition. We're at our strongest when the people who oppose us are bringing their arguments with full force. Now, the left hasn't done that for a while. All they will do when they don't like you is say, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a sexist, you're a transphobe, you're a white supremacist. We know Pepe's this evening. Maybe later. I've snuck it in. It's like a little watermark. If you look in all my talks, there's always one hidden away. I don't think anybody should be doing this, but I particularly don't think that left-wing administrations who are profoundly hostile to the First and Second Amendment should be doing this, knowing what will happen if we hand over control of the best thing that America's ever built to Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia. And that is what Obama has just done. These new owners are characterized, well, they're known for 3 things: kebabs, censorship, and murderous religious fanatics. These are your new owners of the internet. Newly influential people who have, according to UN rules, just as much say in how the internet is going to be operated and administered as America. Every one of these countries now has an equal say in how the internet is administered and censored. And that cancer is spreading as Europe becomes successively more Islamized. To say nothing yet, though we'll get onto it, of China and Russia. In 2012, a UN treaty on internet governance was signed by 89 countries. It wasn't signed by the US because the US objected to language about international control of governance. At that time, the US had a reasonably sensible position on this stuff. The head of the delegation said, the US has consistently believed and continues to believe that the UN treaty should not extend to internet governance. In a way, it's impressive, because that happened 4 years ago. And it only took the Obama administration 4 years to work out they'd done something really good for freedom and reverse it. Thanks to Obama, the West is giving up control of the internet, so that Istanbul in Turkey has as much say as Washington, D.C. We're doing that because Obama and his friends think it's a noble thing to do. They think it's right to give all countries, no matter how despotic or disgusting, an equal say to America. We know this is wrong. We know these countries don't deserve a voice on controlling the internet. Their MO is censorship, oppression, death, bloodshed, and globalism. This is what happens when left-wing cultural relativism takes root. The idea that all cultures are equal, that all countries are equal. They're not equal. There are better countries and worse countries, and this is the best country. You deserve to retain control over the greatest thing, by some measures, that mankind has ever produced, something that the US has done very well protecting up until now. You ought to maintain control of it, but you're not going to. With that in mind, let's take a quick skip through the rogues gallery of people who now control the internet. First of all, China. 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 The Chinese in America have done remarkably well. And Chinese American men, I think, earn more than any other group, any other demographic group. They're doing so well, and they're working so hard that the left has decided to punish them. Because, of course, the left hates hard work, hates aspiration, hates success and achievement. The left is now punishing Asian Americans by gerrymandering their SAT scores, taking away points that those people have worked for, that they have earned through hard work. Now, those Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, are doing really well here. They founded Yahoo, which, you know, was at least good once. Creating thousands of jobs, creating wealth. But back in China, the attitude to the internet and to capitalism and freedom isn't so robust, as I think you know. You've all heard of the Great Firewall of China, presumably? Right? Well, the Great Firewall of China restricts what Chinese people can have access to. And the Chinese government just decided that there will be no reporting in China anymore. If you want news, it comes from the government. There are no journalists who don't work for the government in China allowed to publish on the internet. Just try and wrap your head around that for a second. Equal say to the US in how the internet is now run. You may think to shut down, as I said, like to shut down Breitbart. So given that we, you know, pretty much, well, that Trump couldn't have done it without us. Don't you think that 4chan, they quite like to shut that down too? These fragile, precious ecosystems that give the rest of the internet so much, that have very bad things on them, of course, but also have very good things on them. And you don't get the very good without the very bad. You think it's too far-fetched to imagine the Democrats want to shut some of these places down? Because I don't. She demonstrated it, I think, in that speech where she quoted my headlines. Let's move on. Yes, well, this is don't see, look. Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton's campaign has sent out a fundraising email arguing the website Breitbart News has no right to exist, suggesting that if elected, the website will be shut down entirely. This is America, not some terrible dictatorship. It's not North Korea. This is your Democrat party. She is a hair's breadth from the presidency. I'll be out of a job. A list like that would be illegal. Fuck Jack Dorsey. America does. In how the internet is 900%. Is that really right? Yes, it's 900%. Oh, and they've got a new rule in Russia. You, at some point later in time, were to say they know. Is to shut down what they call extremist or dissident websites. Well, we've seen the left in this country brand and bye-bye most of your opinions reflected in everything that you read online, and bye-bye to your ability to express perfectly reasonable, respectable opinions. Concerns about how your communities are changing, concerns about immigration, concerns about trade, concerns about anything. Your ability to discuss these things and to read the opinions of people who share your views is going to be radically altered if Russia and China take control of the internet. Why do we want these corrupt officials and government cronies dictating what content is extremist and subversive? Well, if a globalist behemoth I'm Greek, I'm allowed. We lost a lot of shit in Cyprus. Bastards! Well, if a globalist behemoth like the UN gets its claws on the internet, that will mean a backwards country like Turkey has the same say as my home country, as England. England didn't invent, democracy or property rights. That was the other half of me. But it more effectively spread them everywhere in the world, which is why you all speak English, why the Japanese wear our suits. England has been the best engine, the best dispersal mechanism for all of the things that make good societies in the history of our species. This country, on the other hand, has to have a rebellion every 10 years, a military coup, just to keep its own leaders in check. Its own military don't trust the politicians. And this is the good Muslim country. This is the one we want in Europe. This is also the country that is the home of Islamic creationism. Now, if you occasionally sort of look with affection and slight cringeworthiness at your own creationists, they're nothing compared to the Saudi Arabian-funded creationists in Turkey. It was run by a man called Harun Yahya. This is the kind of stuff that will be on the new Sharia-compliant Twitter. This is the kind of stuff that will be spread on the internet while Republicans will find themselves and their news sources shut down. Turkey, of course, has a very good relationship with Twitter. They're able to shut down the accounts of any journalists they don't like. They're also, somebody got arrested, and I believe this, I try to take pride in factual accuracy, as you know. And I have tried to find another example. I think that I've got this right. The first example of anyone ever being arrested for a meme. Somebody was arrested in Turkey for suggesting that President Erdogan looks like Gollum. This is one of those examples of something that is incontrovertibly true, but which someone somewhere doesn't want you to say. Of course, dictatorships, authoritarian regimes, the first thing to die is the sound of laughter. It's why feminists don't like me so much, because I make everyone laugh at them. Quite fucking right. That image, which most people with a relatively thick skin, or at least just a well-adjusted mind, would be able to laugh off. It's like, what do I care about some loser on the internet? I'm the president. That got someone arrested. Turkey now has the same say over the internet as the United States. Turkey has Sharia-compliant Twitter wrapped around its little finger. They get whatever journalists they want booted off Twitter, as I told you. And Facebook too. It is against Facebook's terms of service. You probably don't know this. It is against Facebook's terms of service. If you get caught doing this, you can be suspended permanently. To post a map of Turkey, which shows where Kurdistan is. It's against Facebook's terms of service. Most likely, this is the first arrest in history for memes, but it will not be the last if Hillary Clinton and the Democrats have their way, and if Obama's moves with ICANN come to their inevitable and logical conclusion. How do we know this? Well, they're trying to make Pepe a symbol of white supremacism. Why? Because the people who use it are conservatives and libertarians, and they just don't want you on the internet. Now it's we couldn't possibly put this list together without my favorite country in the world, Saudi Arabia. Now, we need to mention this because Saudi Arabia, of course, is Hillary Clinton's favorite country. $50 million to the Clinton Foundation. From a country that beheads homosexuals, routinely oppresses women, enslaves its own people. It's the only example I can think of. I mean, Black Lives Matter constantly going on about racial issues over here. The Saudis enslaved their own people. People from Pakistan and other Muslim countries brought to Saudi effectively to work for nothing. Ritually beaten and abused and humiliated. And you know how they treat women and homosexuals. I made this joke before, but there's only one thing Saudi Arabia does well, which is the ban on women driving. But you can... oh, stop it. You can occasionally reach the right conclusion for the wrong reasons, you know. Saudi Arabia in 2014 had 400,000 websites blocked. Who knows what that figure is now? And I found that block lists, whether from authoritarians, whether it's feminists or Islamic lunatics, don't tend to get smaller. They tend to get larger. Because like chicken and waffles, censorship is both delicious and addictive. Once you work out that you can control what other people say, once you work out that you can shut some people up, it's natural to sort of want to do it. And we have to work every generation to remind ourselves of why it's important that we don't. And America is the best example of a nation founded on the principle that we shouldn't. The First Amendment exists because it is our natural inclination to want to stop people from speaking who don't agree with us. On the political left in this country, it's become the norm to do exactly that. People who have contempt for the First Amendment. It was only Trump, for all of his clownishness and silliness and all the rest of it, it was only Trump who raised the First Amendment in that debate. Because he's the only one that cares about it. Much of the blocking in Saudi Arabia is requested by religious leaders. And Saudi Arabia says its censorship is defending Islamic values. So, those are Islamic values, by the way. I doubt they'll find Tinder and Grindr to their tastes. They won't find Grindr to be very halal. In fact, most porn is probably off the table, especially the gay stuff, unless it's got, you know, girls of 9 or something. But oh, too much? Too much. Strap yourselves in, darling. With Saudi Arabia running the internet equals, say, to the United States, Saudi Arabia, and say goodbye to all sorts of wonderful and dirty little pleasures. I'll be spending a lot less time on the internet anyway. Right. Of course, there's one kind of sexual activity that's always fine in the Middle East. And that shouldn't. They promised they wouldn't put that slide in. I'm sorry. Stop it. No, don't. Stop it. Sure, I can't look at it. Turn away. They promised they wouldn't do it. I'm gonna die. They're gonna get me. I am gonna die. Salman Rushdie didn't do anything like this. I'm a very busy person, so I only play video games I'm in. So I have never played this particular video game. But I have played Milo Tosser. And Milo Tosser is a game in which you can throw an image of me off a roof. You're playing as ISIS. Now, I think it's quite interesting and funny, and like all the best games, like all the best humor, like all the best art, it draws attention to awkward things that we have to consider, bigger questions. But Google removed Milo Tosser from the Android store. Can you guess why? Islamophobia. It's a sort of weird admission. I mean, they keep telling us on the one hand there's nothing whatsoever in common with ISIS and Islam, but every time you take the piss out of ISIS, they get you on Islamophobia. Something doesn't quite add up. But it wasn't Milo getting hurled off the roof and killed that upset Google. It was the feelings of ISIS. I'm serious. Now, I don't know who thinks it's a good idea. Well, I do. I have there's one person, at least one person, who thinks it's a good idea to have Muslim countries running the internet. That is Barack Obama. Now, as I said earlier, control of the internet will probably end up with the United Nations. And there are lots of problems with that. This is Robert Mugabe addressing the United Nations. Now, United Nations likes to take up all sorts of kooky causes. If you think that Mugabe addressing the United Nations, being given a platform to explain himself, is bad, well, there's a little video I want to show you.
Someone had mentioned it's not just what is legal and illegal, right? Harassment is threats of violence, but it's also the day-to-day grind of you're a liar, you suck, you know, making all of these hate videos to attack us on a regular basis, and the mobs that come from those hate videos, etc. So what we're seeing is that the internet is providing new ways to commit the same types of violence. But we can make systems that actively deter that kind of behavior, which would make a huge impact on the lives of me and so many other people who are being harassed online. So what we have right now is women are forced to build a fortress around themselves with the measly tools that we have online. And so we are being punished for people harassing us and, yes, period. And so we need to really think about how we create this larger cultural shift, taking into consideration society at large, taking into consideration tech platforms, taking into consideration laws, so that people, like all people, can engage online and fully participate without fear of intimidation and violence.
There you have it. Feminist definition of violence is saying, Anita Sarkeesian, you suck. And the appropriate response to this is lawmaking to stop it. That's what she just said. She just told the UN she wants laws to stop people saying you're a liar and you suck. Given the choice between Mugabe and feminism, I choose Mugabe. A little suggestion to Ms. Sarkeesian: if you want people to stop calling you an odious, mendacious cunt, maybe stop being an odious, mendacious cunt. What unpleasant words Anita Sarkeesian gets on the internet have nothing to do with her gender and everything to do with the fucking horse shit that spews out of her mouth. Now, a feminist-controlled internet would be actually very dangerous because they hate men, they hate masculinity, and they also have a nebulous term, a little term they use, called cyber violence. No, I mean it. Cyber violence, like online harassment and a number of other terms cooked up by these guys, is defined as anything that hurts a feminist's feelings. So you can go out and you can say what you want, you can hurl the most appalling abuse at anyone you don't like, whether it's straight white males or whatever. They just got to take it. You create this environment of bitchiness and nastiness, and they've just got to put up with it. Because if they respond in kind, that's violence. Chinese censorship is almost better than that, because at least you know where you stand. In their case, you only have to worry about the Politburo's feelings. And you know what they think about things. It's impossible to gauge whether a feminist will suddenly announce she's offended by something. They're offended by everything. They're offended by air. Offended by shoes. Microaggressions. You know what microaggressions are? This sort of no, they don't fucking exist. Who is it? I didn't come up with this joke, and I'm very mad that I didn't. Some comedian said, what are microaggressions? If they're so micro, stop fucking going on about it. Of course they don't exist. It's just a way for unhappy people to try to make you as unhappy as they are. In late 2015, the UN put out a barking mad report called Cyber Violence Against Women and Girls, a Global Wake-Up Call. And it said, I'm going to quote this, it said, a cyber touch, a cyber touch a cyber touch is recognized as equally as harmful as a physical touch. From the people who brought you Saudi Arabia, chair of the Human Rights Commission. I mean, my God, if only it were true. If Father Michael had only cyber touched me when I was 5, maybe I wouldn't be such a fag. I only wish it were true. All right. In their press release, UN Women claim that cyber violence places a premium on, quote, emotional bandwidth, end quote. The report was so badly put together, by the way, that many references were just left blank. and one of the footnotes, when you looked it up, was C:\documents. There's a link to the researcher's hard drive. These people are trying to legislate how the internet works. They can't even use fucking Word. They can't use Microsoft Word. The report in the end had to be withdrawn, had to be taken back down and apologized for. Can you imagine what would happen if this lot got control of how the internet is organized? We have to hope beyond hope, that their incompetence is stronger than their will to censor, which might just be the case. After all, the UN is notable for fucking up everything it sticks its nose into. Many examples of the UN fucking up over and over and over again. Control of the internet is like virginity. Once you give it up, you never, ever get it back. Which is why I chose a special romantic occasion, the drug-fueled interracial fivesome with 2 drag queens. Once America... What? I heard that. Just reaching out. I was just sharing something with you then. Fuck you! America must retain control of the internet. Please do what you can. Complain to whoever you can. Talk about this because nobody else is. This is a really, really important subject. China. Russia. I can't help it. It's just how I hear the word now. You know, he has such an effect on you. It just gets in your head. And it's just how I hear the word now. I'm just reading a sentence, you know, like in a book, and it'll just go, China. Believe me. It's wonderful. What a wonderful man. You cannot allow this to happen. You cannot allow China and Russia and the Islamic world to take over control of the internet. You cannot do it. I encourage you to complain to whoever you think will listen about this. You made it. You made it good. You kept it free. And all of us every day exercise our First Amendment rights, some of us more enthusiastically than others, to say what we want and be what we want and do what we want. The internet is the primary vehicle through which these days many of us find out who we are, how we flourish, how we learn, how we meet people, how we meet our loved ones even. It's astonishing to me. Amazing that an elected president in America could want to give that up to Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia. Thanks very much. Sorry for ending on such a bad note. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry for ending on such a pessimistic note, but sometimes things really are that bad. I'm happy to take questions about more cheerful subjects. How does that work? Here. There's 2 microphones at the front. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take a couple on this subject or any others. Hi, go ahead.
I got a cold.